Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to visit Cairo this Monday. President Putin and President Abdel Fattah El Sisi are expected to witness the final contract signature for Egypt's first nuclear power plant. The two leaders will also discuss other essential bilateral matters as well as Middle Eastern issues. Here's Adel El Mahrouky with more.
President Putin has accepted the Egyptian leader's invitation to sign Al nuclear power plants, a massive project through which Russia will build 8 reactors. Each will produce 1,200 megawatts of electricity. However, the visit will cover critical domestic files for Egypt, on top of which is lifting Moscow's travel ban to Egypt.
I think the return of Russian tourists is no longer a security issue, because many witnesses have recently testified that the security measures in Egyptian airports has become very advanced. So it's now a political decision that lies within the hands of the Russian president. It may be related to other files related to the Egyptian ties, and that is what the two leaders will discuss. I expect good news during this visit about that.
Military cooperation between the two countries has caught the attention of the world. Egypt has made large military purchases to diversify its weapon sources. Moreover, Russia has recently unraveled a draft agreement that will allow both armies to use the military bases of the other, which will broaden Russia's military access in the Middle East.
Military cooperation between Egypt and Russia has reached unprecedented levels. The new agreement to exchange military bases will greatly boost strategic ties between both countries. We're also expecting a new arms purchase to be announced. For long, Egypt has been interested to buy the S-400 long-range missile.
Official statements from both countries indicated that both presidents will discuss regional crisis in the Arab world. And lately, Egypt has been taking a similar approach to Russia in some of these crises.
The timing of Putin's visit cannot be disregarded. He's coming to Cairo and is expected to stop on his way in Turkey at a time the region is bursting in rage after President Trump's decision to move the U.S. embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Putin is knocking on Arab doors at a time they are shutting theirs before the U.S. Vice President arrives for a visit later this month. Adel El Mahrouky, CGTN, Cairo.
Let's get you more on that visit now. I'm joined by CGTN's Adel Mahrouky, who's in Cairo for us, and Daria Bandachuk is on standby in Moscow. Daria, let's start off with you first. What's the significance of the visit to Egypt by the Russian president?
Well, certainly Vladimir Putin is expected to discuss with his Egyptian counterpart issues of bilateral cooperation and the energy projects. It is expected that the agreement on the construction of a nuclear plant in Adel to the northwest of Cairo will be linked during this talk or result of these talks in Cairo. Also, the Russian side is expected to discuss the security and stability in the Middle East, following, of course, recent statements from Russia of a possible withdrawal. And just in the last minutes, we've got a confirmation that Vladimir Putin arrived in Syria and has announced that Russia is starting the withdrawal from Syria, from the airbase Khmeimim. Vladimir Putin was talking. That is a Russian base that Russia uses there in Syria. It used to carry out its airstrikes on terrorists during its more than 2-year campaign there. And of course, it is expected that Vladimir Putin will discuss issues of Middle East, a wider sort of crisis there, and in particular the recent tensions between Jerusalem and Palestine, the opposition there, following last week's announcement by Washington to recognize the capital of Jerusalem as a capital of Israel.
Right, Adel, quite a number of bilateral issues are on the agenda there during the visit of President Putin to Cairo. What more do we know about this from Egypt?
Well, Egypt, the main core of this visit, it's why the President Fattah Sisi has given out the invitation to President Putin to arrive, is that they're expecting to finalize the deal of the nuclear power plant, Egypt's first electricity nuclear power plant ever on Egypt. So it's a very big project for Egypt, and Egyptians have been looking forward to it a lot. It would help out the infrastructure of the electricity network all over the country, to move it from just the self-sustainability to have extra productions that will help the growth, the urban growth and the industrial growth Egypt is planning in the coming times. The return of tourists is a very key issue, and it seems that the security issues have been resolved after numerous meetings by Russian security experts to Egyptian airports. Egypt has installed almost all the required devices that has been requested by the Russians, and most of their demands, if not all of them, have been met. So it is expected that President Putin might start giving the green light for that to resume as well. That's in terms of domestic politics. Internationally, of course, there's a lot to be discussed between the two presidents, especially that while President Putin will be here in Cairo, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is also in Cairo, and Libyan Prime Minister, the head of the unity government, Faisal Sarraj in the west, the UN-backed government, is also in Cairo. So it seems there's a lot of files ongoing. Many leaders from Libya, Palestine are here in Cairo at the same time, although it has not been announced officially that President Putin will meet them both.
Right, Daria, to you though, it hasn't been announced anything from Egypt yet about other meetings aside from that with President El Sisi. So is Putin though likely to use the Egyptian visit to advance Russia's position on Middle Eastern affairs? Because definitely Middle Eastern issues are likely to come up on the agenda.
Well, certainly Moscow has been trying to project herself as a reliable mediator in many Middle Eastern crises, in particular Syria, and with Russia's push against ISIS and other terrorist groups in Syria, and Russia's involvement in trying to negotiate other crises, in particular to try to arrange negotiations between Israel and Palestine. Russia has tried to coordinate direct talks between the representatives of Israel and Palestine here in Moscow several times, though they have not advanced on that, unfortunately. But Russia is trying to promote itself and take a greater role as a Middle Eastern mediator. And with this breaking news announcement coming just now, confirmed that Russia's President Vladimir Putin made a stopover on the way. He landed in Syria and announced that Russia is starting to withdraw its forces from Syria. This follows from last week's statements that Russia's aim to defeat ISIS in Syria is completed. It was made by Russia's defense ministry, and a lot of analysts say that this is the final step before Russia announces its withdrawal. And now we have confirmation from that from Russia's President Vladimir Putin, who stopped on the way in Syria on the way to Egypt and Turkey, making his Middle Eastern visit, announcing that Russia is indeed starting its withdrawal after more than 2 years of presence in Syria, where Russia said it was helping the Syrian regime to fight against ISIL and other terrorists there on the ground.
Oh, right. Adel, the question of Jerusalem, which has caused tensions over the past week or so. Are we likely to see Egypt asking for Russia's support in putting pressure on the United States to reverse its position on Jerusalem?
Well, without Egypt asking, already the pressure has started. Having Vladimir Putin in the Middle East, coming here to Cairo, or President Mahmoud Abbas is in the Egyptian capital as well, all are indications that there's something going on, and this on its own gives an alarm to the White House. For years, politicians in the United States have criticized Barack Obama for withdrawing his influence in the Middle East. Now Trump takes it a step further, and at a time time where Putin is coming. There are several rejections among religious figures. President Mahmoud Abbas as well has refused to meet Vice President Pence when he comes in the scheduled Middle East trip later this month. So all of these are an indication. What Egypt will be doing is to coordinate with Russia. Russia has announced a very close approach to and a very close position to not just Egypt but the Arab world as well. And this is what Egypt will be building on. Palestinian crisis, as I said earlier, is a prime issue for the Egyptian president, and whoever can help in that, particularly when it's a country as big as Russia, Egypt will definitely cooperate in terms to reach a permanent solution for that crisis.
All right, Adel Mahrouky for us there in Cairo, and Daria Bandachuk in Moscow. To you both, thank you.